tonight I'm here to talk to you about earthquake preparedness and the Fire Smart program. Originally I was coming to talk about Fire Smart, and then we have all these earthquakes happening, and we had another one tonight, this afternoon, just off of Port Angeles area at about 3.8. So a little one, felt in Victoria, not so much here. So they're happening, and that really highlights the fact that we need to be prepared, we need to take action. Am I blocking you from the screen?
No, it's not.
Okay, because I can.
You are, but it doesn't matter. No, you say that.
I can move over here. There, okay. So we live in an area we know now that can be impacted by earthquakes, and we're not prepared. Studies have been done over the years, and it shows that less than 20% of our population has actually taken the time to prepare. We live in an area with earthquakes, so what is your excuse? And how are these excuses going to work for you when we are facing a major earthquake? A lot of people, they're too busy, they don't find the time to do it. A lot of people, they don't know where to start. If you Google earthquake preparedness, you get millions of hits on how to get prepared. Where do you even start? And my favorite excuse is, what if I can't access my disaster supplies? I have heard that one so often, like, why bother? What's the point of doing it? I may not be able to get my supplies. But what if you could get your supplies and you didn't bother? Wouldn't that be worse? So that's why I'm here tonight, to talk to you about some simple steps, and there will be no more excuses. We don't have a lot of time. I'm going to touch on some basics. You've got a lot of handouts at the back, and there is a lot of information out there to get you prepared, but we do have to take action. This story is one that has really hit home for me, and it happened during the Lytton, British Columbia forest fires. Hilda and Joe were an older couple. They lived in a house, and it was so hot. They didn't know what to do. They had fans running, and the heat, it was close to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. They were setting records across Canada. They'd had to put tin foil up in their windows to try to reflect the heat. And they were running out of things to do to keep cool. And all of a sudden, a forest fire ravaged the whole town. The whole town of Lytton was gone in a matter of a few hours. The police station, the fire station, people's homes, nothing was left. Emergency Support Services looks after the people that have been impacted, and I was filling in out at the Chilliwack Reception Center. They came into the center, and as you can imagine, they'd lost everything. She was, her mother's pictures of their wedding, their children's pictures, everything gone. And she said to me as she came in, she said, "We were told to get ready, but we just didn't think it would happen to us." So being prepared, would that have saved their house? No, the forest fire ravaged the whole town. But if they had got their supplies together, if they put it through, a few things into their vehicles, were ready to go, it would have been much different. So we've got to take action, we've got to get prepared, and we've got to do it now before the event happens. So after an earthquake, if you're going to try and get out of town, you think rush hour on a Friday night is bad, it's going to be 100 times worse. Everybody will be trying to get out of the city, trying to get home to their families. After an earthquake, if you're going to, run to the grocery store to get your groceries, you're not going to have too much luck. Think about what it was like with COVID. We had people, buying things just because they could. We're not going to have the trucks coming in, bringing in our supplies. We are going to be relying on what we have put together. Call 911 today and you get them to respond fairly quickly. After an earthquake, they may not even be able to respond depending on what the situation is and what has happened. How are you gonna get home? What if you've gone to Richmond or you've gone out for the day and we have the earthquake, the major earthquake, our bridges are gonna be closed and you may not be able to travel home. What's gonna happen to your family if you can't get home? What plans do you have in place? And that's what we're gonna be talking about as we go through the next 25 minutes or so. You could be on your own for 3 days or longer. We have a major earthquake, it's gonna be a lot longer than 3 days. And forest fires, things like that, it really will depend on what the situation is. So we used to plan for 72 hours, we're now saying plan for at least a week. And that's gonna work much better for you. So if there was an earthquake right now, all of a sudden we started to feel the building shake, what would you do? What did you do if you felt the earthquake? Any of the 4 that have happened this past week? What is the first thing you're gonna do? I see hands going. Drop, cover, and hold on. That has to become second nature. This is what is going to better protect you. It is human nature to want to flee to safety. Get out of your building, get out to safety. But as you're fleeing to safety, that's when you got debris shooting across the room. You're putting yourself in greater danger. You need to drop, cover, and hold on. Get underneath a heavy table. Wait for the shaking to stop. Once the shaking is stopped, count to 60, and then you can decide what your next move is gonna be. That's when it's okay to go outside. But if you're trying to flee to safety, you're gonna be putting yourself in much more danger. So I hand.
I'm gonna say this because I eat lunch at Carousel all the time. What about all the not so young people who, when they get under that table, are not gonna be able to get up?
Okay, no,
This is a serious problem for them.
It is. So there's different things for different people to do. So if you're in a wheelchair, put your brakes on and you bend forward and you protect your head. If you have mobility issues and you're not able to get underneath the table, go to an interior wall, brace yourself against the wall and protect your head the best that you can. If nothing else, try to get away from windows, but you just need to bend down in your chair, protect your head, and wait for the shaking to stop. So, it's something that people should be practicing. You know your own limitations. Determine what you would do if something happened. With your group there, what would they do? Have a conversation with them. And, if they can't get under the table, they're could be putting themselves in greater danger, injuring themselves. So just knowing what you can do, but it's always about protecting your head, moving away from the glass if at all possible, and then you can take action. When I moved to Vancouver many years ago, I moved into an apartment down in Yaletown, and we had my bedroom was all glass, and the movers moved my bed in, and here it was in the bedroom, and I'm looking at the window, I'm looking at my bed, and I'm thinking, what am I gonna do? I can't put my bed underneath the window. I teach people not to do that. I didn't have a choice. And I could see the headlines in the province, emergency planner killed by broken glass. But what did I do? I went to the bay downtown and I bought a heavy pair of curtains. Was it perfect? No, my bed should not have been under the window, but at least I took action. I did something to better protect myself, and thankfully there was no earthquake. But you're gonna find yourself in situations where you're not gonna be able to do the perfect thing you should, but do what you can, and that's gonna better protect you than doing nothing at all. So keep that in mind. So connecting with your family, that is gonna be your number one concern. Where are they? How are they? And that's gonna go further than just you and your little unit that lives in your house here. You may have family in other parts of Vancouver. You need to have ways to connect. We don't know what we're gonna have available to us when an earthquake happens. Will our cell phones work? They may. They may not. We just don't know until the earthquake happens. So the more ways you have to connect with family and friends, the better your chances of connecting. Could be social media, using Facebook, having an out-of-area contact is really important. They can provide information. So identifying with your family the best way that you can connect. When I was with Vancouver, we had a lady come up from New Zealand, and so we were talking in my office, and she said, "Jackie, will you be my out-of-area contact?" And I thought, wow, I live in an area with earthquakes. I'm gonna be an out-of-area contact. It was kind of made me really happy. So we exchanged numbers. She went back to Christchurch, and was maybe 6 or 7 months later, my phone rang quite late at night, and I thought, who's calling me this late at night? And I picked up the phone, and all I could hear was crackle. And I was just about to disconnect, and I heard a voice say, "Is this Jackie?" I said, "Yes, it is. Who's calling?" And I knew immediately something was not right. She said, "You don't know me, but you're my out-of-area contact. I live in Christchurch, and we just had a major earthquake, and I cannot get a hold of my mom." And so my heart's pounding now. I asked her how she was. She said that her and her family were fine. Their floor had buckled by the front door. They couldn't use the front door, but all in all, they had supplies. They were gonna be just fine. But she couldn't find her mom. And her mom, be like living here to New Westminster, too far to walk, but you know, if you have a vehicle and we're able to drive, it's not too bad. And you could hear the panic in her voice. So I said, okay, well, let me try. And I called, and nothing happened. I couldn't get through. Then the phone started to go to the busy signal. So I thought, oh, maybe things are improving. And I kept trying. And then finally she picked up the phone. And I said, "Carol, it's Jackie in Vancouver. How are you?" And she said, "Oh, you'll never guess what's happened." I said, "I know, you've had an earthquake." And she said, "I can't get a hold of my daughter." I said, "Carol, I've talked to your daughter. She's fine." Now, who would think a call through Vancouver would connect a family in Christchurch? So it does work, but you've got to get it in place before the disaster happens. This is an amazing way to connect with your family. Will it be instant? It may not, but at least you have it there when phone lines come back online. So definitely keep your out-of-area contact in mind. Okay, so is your home gonna be safe? The big question. I know in Dunbar you've got a lot of different types of construction. You've got some newer construction, some older construction, and that's something you're gonna have to check with your home and determine what needs to be done to make it safe. Now there's a lot more disasters beside forest fires and house fires, and when I was with the city of Vancouver, we would respond to 40 house fires a year where we had people displaced. So, you know, house fires are probably the most likely thing you're gonna be facing, but there's lots of other events as well. So when you're preparing for an earthquake, you've got to secure heavy items. I was at a home and sort of looking at their home through the lens of an earthquake, and they had a young son who had his bedroom, and on top of his sort of dresser was a pair of weights, and they're not big ones, but heavy enough if they rolled off and hit him in the head, it would have caused some damage. So simply moving those on the floor. You know, it's not difficult to do, but that could have saved his life. So go through your home, and if you felt the earthquake, it felt like that rocking motion. As it gets larger, that rocking motion is going to become more intense. You'll easily be able to identify what will come crashing down on you. So go through your home and identify what you've got to do to make it safe. Secure your hot water tank. If you've got a new home, probably been done for you, but if you're in an older home, you know, you may not have your hot water tank secured. That falls over, you're gonna have a flood on top of the earthquake, but it's something that's easily avoidable. Talked about moving heavy items down low. Who wants to take a guess at what the most dangerous room in your house is?
Kitchen.
Kitchen. You go into your kitchen, all the stuff you got on your counter, all the stuff in your cupboards, and what do we put up high? Our heavy mixing bowls. What do we put down low? Tupperware. What if you switched it around? Your cupboard flies open and you get hit with Tupperware. Not gonna do the damage a heavy mixing bowl would do. So simple things like that. I was teaching down at the US consulate several years ago, and there was a fellow there, and he lived in many countries that had major earthquakes over his time with the consulate. And he was in California when this happened, and he was saying his house was secured, everything was fastened, nothing was going to move if there was an earthquake. They could survive for months with everything they had stored. He went away on a business trip, and as a surprise, his wife was going to put a bookcase up, dig up all his law books from downstairs, put them up in the bookcase. She got it done, but what she didn't anticipate was a significant earthquake, and it was the Northridge earthquake many, many years ago. And that bookcase went flying across the room. The way that it fell, it got lodged in the little guy's bedroom door, who was about 4, and she couldn't get into the bedroom. He was in there having a nap. She was able, fortunately, to go outside and get him out the bedroom window. But what if they had lived on a house with a second story? You wouldn't have been able to get him out that way. What if they lived in an apartment on the 24th floor? You're not going out the bedroom window. What if there'd been a fire? She wouldn't have had the time to do that. So think about what you've got to do. Make sure you've got things secured. And we're talking about the safety of your family and your pets. So make sure your house is properly prepared. With your gas meter, only turn it off if necessary. You turn it off unnecessarily, you cannot turn it back on. You need a licensed gas person to do it. Yeah?
I'm gonna say something, 'cause
Yeah.
I just realized. So I'm on the ground floor, my townhouse is laid out such that I actually have a hammer to be able to get out my window, because it's those stupid little ones you never would fit through. Right? And somebody said, well, I have 2 exits. I said, yeah, they're down a long hallway. If there's a fire, I won't be going there. It just made me realize I need one in the other room.
Okay.
But if all you have is those little kind of awning type windows, you're not getting out that way. A hammer in the bedroom is a good idea.
Okay, there you go. For your hallway, they have 2 exits, one at this end, one at that end. What we encourage people to do is stand in front of your unit door, count how many steps to the exit that way, how many steps that way. You may be able to crawl out, and if you know roughly how far it is, you're gonna get out much easier. You live in an apartment, do you know how far away your exit door is? You probably know it's down the hall somewhere. I'm not suggesting you go home and start crawling down your hallway, but having an idea where it is can make a big difference to you. And having ways to get out and knowing what your limitations are, that's half the battle right there.
You were talking about gas meters.
Oh, did I not finish?
No. And you said that if you turn them off, make sure, look at your meter. If it's spinning around crazily, you smell gas, obviously you're gonna shut it off.
Yes, if it's safe to do so.
Right. And everybody wants to have that special tool nearby or know where it is in order to do that, but not to turn it back on. So I explained this to an engineering graduate. Oh yeah, I'll turn it back on. And I thought, you really need to explain to people why they can't turn it back on. Why it is that they have to have somebody with the training to do it. They don't realize that when oxygen mixes with the gas, it could be a problem.
Yeah.
And I think you should spell that out. I couldn't believe it. This guy was an engineer and he did not know that.
Yeah, no, and if you do
Not a gas
have,
fitter, though.
yeah, exactly, probably won't be a good one either. If you do have a gas meter if you're in a house, go to the FortisBC website. They have very good diagram on what to do. I am not a gas expert by any means, but if you go to their website, it clearly spells out A lot of people also think they need a special wrench for the gas meter. You can use any wrench. And a lot of people will tie a wrench onto their gas meter. A lot of people say, no chance am I doing that. Someone will come and shut it off. But the key is you cannot turn it back on unless you're a licensed gas person or you're putting yourself, your home, and maybe your neighbors in danger. So thanks for bringing that up. Any other questions or comments?
Is the city gonna go ahead with new buildings only requiring a single exit in multiple unit?
I don't work for the city anymore. I don't know what they're doing. And it feels so good to say that. First time I've ever been able to say that.
Resist.
I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I've got another question, that, maybe this isn't the best,
No, go
slide
ahead.
on it, but, for apartment buildings, and in terms of supplies, your safety, equipment and all of that, space is at a premium, and it's likely to be in a, I would think, in a parkade, location, room to store stuff. I was just curious if there's any, like, engineering studies that would, like, model what's the best thing to do that, use that kind of location, or to have a special structure built outside of the building, assuming there's even space for that.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that for a little bit because I'm gonna talk about grab and go kits in a
Okay.
few slides, and don't let me forget because I will address that.
Okay, I'm forgetful. No. just
So
kidding.
am I, so someone remember. Okay. So, Fire Smart is a program that I think is really important, as you guys do here too, to ensure that your home is going to be better protected should there be a forest fire coming your way. There is a number of steps that you can take that will better protect your home. And you've got the DEEP program, having it as part of that. A lot of times is just simply removing things from your gutters, taking, the branches that fall off, clearing out your gutters, clearing around your home, don't have hazards close by your home, and just really looking at your home through the lens of if fire happens, how is this gonna impact us? You've got brochures back there on Fire Smart. Definitely take some time, do the earthquake stuff as well, but that is really going to protect you and your neighbors. If you can, make it hard for the fire to get into your house, is going to be a lot better. But if you've got branches, you've got, bushes and things that burn really well, you're going to be running into some problems with the Fire Smart program. I know you've got the brochure there that tells you what type of plants to plant. I'm not saying go rip out all your plants and replace your plants, but if you are replacing plants, get the types that aren't gonna burn. Keep that in mind. If you're doing renovations to your house, using, sidings that are not gonna burn. If you get a new roof, getting roofs that are gonna be safer. So definitely things to think about as, you're looking at your home. And there is the Fire Smart program. It's changing continually like all government programs are, but they do have people that can come out and talk to you about Fire Smart, do a lot better job than I will, because that's what they do. So have you reached out to Vancouver Fire about it?
They've gotten in touch with us.
Yeah.
We're just trying to put something together maybe
Perfect.
in May, potentially.
Yeah, so they are definitely the ones that know a lot more about the Fire Smart program. But in the meantime, just, looking around your home, what can you do to make it safer? They have the 3 zones, so really close to your house. It used to be like firewood, people would have it close to your house. I know we don't use firewood anymore, but simple things like moving your firewood further away makes a big difference. And I think, your gutters, things like that, keeping your trees trimmed, removing loose branches, making it easy for the fire department to get to your house. Simple things like that will make a big difference.
I got a question.
Yeah.
On that topic, I understand in like a lot of the Los Angeles area fires, one of the problems was that it wasn't so much what individual owners did, but other houses, or dwellings in the area, that if they weren't sensible enough, all these embers would be flying off. And of course, it helps if you're using the right construction materials,
Yeah.
design fire breaks and all that. But it seems like it depends a lot on the whole neighborhood. And I was just wondering in that regard, if the city of Vancouver has any kind of enforcement, program in that.
I don't believe any community has programs to enforce it, but that would be definitely something to ask when you get the Fire Smart here. But if you can do it as a group, you know, and go out and your neighbors see everybody doing it, they're more likely to get on board with it as well. I know it's not gonna be easy. It's like getting people prepared for earthquakes. It's not the easiest thing to do, so,
Thanks.
but yeah, it's a big job. Yeah?
We were sort of talking about this in Judy's house and talking about what to do all around your house. And I looked out the window and in Dunbar there are like trees up and down the street, like lots of trees.
Yeah.
And, so I guess a fire could just go leaping up the block.
Yeah, and that can definitely be a concern.
They're beautiful.
No.
Don't come.
They are beautiful. Yeah, it's,
So most of the trees like on lining the streets are deciduous trees.
so they're not gonna.
They're not as fire prone as
Oh, they're
carnivorous
not.
ones
It's
that
not
are.
oily.
Yeah, like the sap in like a dry jack pine or something like that is explosive, whereas those are bigger trees, they're full of water, so they really don't burn all that
Oh,
badly.
good to know.
Not as easily anyways.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So, yeah.
There is a brochure back there that lists all the good plants and all the bad plants.
Pacific Spirit Park is another question. Close by, lots of conifers there.
Yeah,
My house next door to me on Gabriel Island burned down last year.
right?
And they had 5 Douglas fir, blackened all the way up, 40 feet. They're all standing, they're all healthy, the trees survived.
Wow.
They were more concerned about the pine.
Yeah.
And so the firemen actually watered down between the pine and the
Yeah.
house.
Yeah.
They're more concerned for that,
And you'll
but
see,
not the Douglas fir.
yeah, in newer subdivisions, they're going through it more with a Fire Smart lens as to what they're doing. I know that doesn't help you here, you're a very established area. But the newer subdivisions and when they're rebuilding the Kelownas and the Kamloops and those areas that have a lot of the fires, they are trying to do it with that in mind, yeah.
There's also having 6-story wood frame buildings that are going up in your neighborhood too. Especially right at the convenient stage where they're fully framed. Yeah, so, they didn't allow that in the building code for the longest time for that very reason, because it's like a torch when it
Yeah.
goes, right? So
Yeah. And the building code or the building,
they changed that to placate the lumber
Yeah.
industry or whatever.
okay, let's go back to earthquake preparedness. Okay, this is the critical part. This is what is going to get you through. There's 2 kits you should have, your grab and go kit and your home kit. Those are the 2 basics. So a grab and go kit is what you're gonna grab and flee to safety with if you have to evacuate your home in the middle of the night. It's gonna have basic items that you will need. So imagine you have to run out of your home at 4 o'clock in the morning, it is on fire. What would you wanna have in your grab and go kit to take with you?
A jetpack?
Might be a little bit heavy.
Water.
Having some
Medicine.
water, yeah.
Medicine.
Medications is critical. And if you're on any medications, talk to your family doctor about storing medications. I am a diabetic. If I don't get my insulin, I am not gonna survive. If you're familiar with diabetes, insulin cannot be kept out of the fridge for very long, it goes bad. So I've had to work with my family doctor about how to best store my medications. So if you're on any medications, have that conversation with your doctor or your pharmacist about how to best store. But you're right, you wanna think about medications for your grab and go kit. What are you wearing at 4 o'clock in the morning? Don't answer. But make sure you've got a change of clothes, having something you can change into, having a pair of shoes that you can put on. Anything else you'd wanna have? Yeah?
I'd like to suggest you put a pair of shoes you don't really care about anymore under your bed.
That is also a very good idea, so you can easily slip those on and that would make it work just as well. If you're not gonna do that, put them in your grab and go
Well,
kit.
it's for glass.
Yeah, it is for glass in an earthquake.
Flashlight?
Flashlight, yeah. For those of you that wear glasses, are you gonna have time to fumble around and find your glasses? Maybe, maybe not. Next time you get your prescription refilled, put it into your grab and go kit, your old pair. Set of car keys. I have gone to so many fires in Vancouver where people didn't have time to grab their purses or their keys. They get outside, their car is outside, no way to drive it. The fire department won't let them go back into their house to get their keys, and had they had a spare set, they could have taken them with, gone somewhere in their car. Having some cash. If you have teenagers, do not tell them there's cash in your grab and go kits. I learned that one the hard way. But having some cash, you know, bank machines are not working, at least you got something to get you through.
Maybe don't tell them there's medication in there.
The insulin's not a big seller. But it's really anything you're gonna need, and your grab and go kit will support your other kits. Also in there, copies of your insurance. How many of you know who your insurance company is off the top of your head? You all should know, but most people don't. It comes out of your bank account once a year. You might have a phone call, but you don't remember who your insurance company is. At 3 o'clock in the morning, if I'm asking you who your insurance company is so we can, you know, look after you, all this happening, you're not gonna remember. So having a copy of your insurance and other important documents that you may have, adoption papers, you know, different things like that. So good to include. Okay, your home kit. This is so you can stay at home and survive. Just because we've had an earthquake does not mean you need to evacuate. You may, but you may also be able to stay and survive if you've got the supplies. At the beginning, we talked about how your Save on Foods or your Stongs is not gonna be likely opened. So if you've got supplies to get you through, that is gonna help. And you can stay at home and survive, not have to fight the crowds trying to get into, you know, lining up for hours on end to get groceries or go to reception centers. You'll be able to stay put. And I'll talk about a little bit, I've got some lists in that you can access.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah. Yeah,
In all of those, you got lots of water, in both kits, first aid kits, certain things, and it sits in the closet for a year, 2 years, you haven't used it. How often do you have to replenish?
good question.
Well, the Band-Aids don't stick anymore, or the water's maybe not good anymore. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna ask, actually, just watching the time. Okay, you go to Costco and buy bottled water. How long does that water last?
Maybe a year.
6 months.
No,
Indefinitely?
10 years?
no, 2 years. So the shelf life of bottled water is generally 2 years. If you buy it from Costco, that moves through it at a quick rate. You buy it from a corner store, it might not last that long.
But that's not what you get out of a tap.
No, water you get out of a tap, if it's stored in a container made for storing water, not a milk jug, how long does that water last?
6 to 9
6
months.
months.
If you just.
I heard 6 months.
Yeah,
You can get a lot longer than that too if you treat it.
Yeah, and you can treat water. The two easiest ways to store water is to buy it with a seal or to store it yourself. And the best time to check your supplies is every 6 months when the clocks change. Write a list, put it on your kit that says everything that expires, and when the clocks change, I think it's coming up pretty quick, you look, oh, okay, you look at your list and say, oh, I've gotta change the water, I've gotta change the food, I've gotta do this, this, and this. Makes it simple. If you live in an apartment, maybe a house as well, a lot of people, I've heard 3 or 4 people say that mice have gotten into their kits. So they've been in their storage lockers, in basements, out in sheds, and so you want to be checking it. There'd be nothing worse than having a disaster and find out the mice beat you to your kit. So
So how,
definitely check your
so
kits.
when you have water in a jug, how long does that last?
6 months if you've stored it yourself,
Yeah?
but don't use a milk jug.
What if it's from a underwater filter,
Why not
like an
use a milk
under-sink
jug?
filter?
Talk.
Okay, I'm gonna answer hers and I'll come to yours. Milk jugs, they have had the milk stored in them, the milk sort of seeps into it, and over time the container starts to break down. So don't ever store your water that you're gonna drink in a milk jug. Use a container that is made for storing water.
Like, are you gonna buy where?
You can use an old pop bottle type thing. You can go to the dollar store. Just make sure it's safe for storing water. Sorry, you were saying about,
Sink filter, like filtered water.
yeah, that's a whole, we're not gonna get into that, but definitely that, you can do that. Just check what it says on the directions for how long it's gonna last. There's also like the life straw, things like that can work well. But we're a short time, so we're just gonna touch on the 2 right now. You can check online if you, there's other ways, there's pills you can buy, there's boiling water, using bleach and water, lots of ways to do it. Yeah,
Do the pills have a life, have an expiry date?
yeah, they do, and it will be on the box that you purchase telling you how long. You know, if you've got water and it's 2 years and a couple of months, it's not gonna do anything to you. It's just, it really starts to lose its flavor and it just tastes stale, so, and
Water tastes like that all the time.
no, it doesn't. You can buy those little pouches and put those in. Okay, so your home kits, and your grab and go kits, store your grab and go kits, usually are stored in by the front door, the door you're most likely to leave from. You know, life safety always comes first. Don't put yourself in danger. If it's not safe to grab your kits, get out. But if it's safe to grab your kits, grab your grab and go kits and get outside. For your home kit, store it in your house, in your garage. Make sure you have easy access to it, and then check them every 6 months. And somebody had a question about kits, and I can't remember what it was earlier. I think it was you.
About storing them, like in an apartment building, is it generally safer, like most likely, one would put it in a room that's in a parquet, like underneath the building, because that's where there would be large.
Like in your
space.
storage locker.
But alternatively, one theoretically could build a separate structure outside the building, assuming there's even space for that. And is there any, did you have any recommendation on that?
I would, for myself, I would store my grab and go kit in my apartment and my home kit in my apartment, so I have easy access to them when I need them. I would not, I live in an apartment and we had mice get into our locker, and we're in a brand new apartment, and we've got restaurants on the bottom floor, and mice got into a lot of people's stuff in the locker, so I would never put my stuff in a locker. I keep it in my apartment. So you gotta do what's comfortable for you. You know, we all live in different situations and different types of homes, but the key here is make sure they're accessible. And you know, if you live in a house with a garage, you got hockey equipment building up on top of it and everything else, you wanna make sure you can grab your kits. If you have a garage and you don't have like a man type door, if your power is out, it's gonna slow you down getting out if you gotta manually open your garage door. So think about that when you're storing your kits. Pets and disasters, if you have pets, they too need an emergency kit. And you know, you've gotta have supplies for them so that they will be looked after. I remember up in the barrier area, people left their dog behind. They evacuated every year, nothing ever happened. So they thought, we're not gonna distress our dog. He has a nice big pen, and he was in a perfect place, they thought, and the dog didn't survive it. They lost everything. So they were heartbroken. They thought they were doing the right thing, but if you're evacuated, take your pets. And when I was responding to house fires and apartment fires in Vancouver, people would not bring their pets out, and the fire department may not let you back in to get them if it's not safe to do so. So if you evacuate, take your pets with you, have supplies for them as well. So, we're 5 minutes over. The challenge here is you've got to get prepared. We have talked, about a number of things you can do, but there's a whole lot of other things you can do. But start small. You don't have to do it all tonight when you go home. Just sort of tackle it bit by bit and get it done. These earthquakes we're having are wake-up calls that things can and do happen. So for a lot of people, they lived here for many years and never felt an earthquake. So they're now happening 4 in a couple of weeks. So definitely something to think about. I do have an online program. If you're interested in learning more, you can download it there. It will help you get prepared, but it's not necessary. You have the information. We've talked about it, but if you're not going to do it, find a way to get it done. And the time to do it is now, because once the earthquake happens, it's going to be too late.
Oh, can you move that code up there, please?
Okay, any questions? Happy to answer questions. Yeah?
You didn't mention anything about earthquake insurance
Earthquake
in Vancouver and surrounding areas.
Yeah. Okay, earthquake insurance is something that is available. It's usually quite expensive. With any insurance, talk to your insurance company about it. Make sure you know what you are getting. And I'm going to go a little deeper than just that. When you're buying your insurance, know what your living out expenses are. When you go to house fires, I've seen apartment buildings that people have been out for a year before they can get back in. And if you don't have living out expenses that'll cover that, that could be a challenge. As far as the earthquake insurance goes, it does go up quite a bit, and there's a lot of limitations. So really make sure you get them to explain what you're getting, and then you can determine if it's the right thing for you to do. But I have earthquake insurance, and I'm willing to pay the extra to get it, but a lot of people don't think it's necessary, but that's a decision you have to make, but make an educated decision on it. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, at the back, and then I'll come up to.
I was thinking a barbecue would be a very good idea to keep, like I don't have a barbecue.
I would get one.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you've got a gas barbecue, just make sure your gas tank is kept full. A lot of people let it run right out, and same with the gas tank on your car. Make sure that's kept full. And then, yeah, your barbecue is a valuable tool for cooking, so.
So when I was making my neighborhood map, I had to map all the gas, where the gas isn't going to each house. But
Yeah.
they also questioned me about propane. I said, hell, I don't know, everybody's got a barbecue and they have their tank on their deck by their house. Is this a danger?
That is
If
a
it's
fire
house fire,
smart danger, yeah.
It is a firehouse,
Yeah.
fire smart danger, isn't it?
Yeah, so what they recommend in Fire Smart is if you have the propane, or move it away, like have your barbecue, then put it in the proper zone. There's 3 zones, put it into the proper zone.
Ah, I'm right up against
Good
the
workout
house.
program.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
I was just curious, in relation to their comments at the outset about generally people not being prepared. Aside from areas like, say, the Bay Area or up in Juneau, Alaska, or wherever that have had repeated major earthquakes, is it roughly the same level of lack of preparedness everywhere in North America, or is there significant differences, and if so, why, do you know?
People just think it won't happen to them. And this is not official by any means, from people I've talked to, other emergency planners, everybody says their community is not prepared properly. What we find in Vancouver, and it might change now that we've had some earthquakes, is people that come here from Toronto or Winnipeg, they're more likely to get prepared than those of us that have lived here forever and never felt an earthquake. Hopefully that will change. But we've become very complacent, and all up and down the West Coast has, as with earthquakes and that. So not many people are as prepared as they should be. A lot of people after earthquake, you'll all go out and get prepared now, then we won't have an earthquake. Oh, I'll update my kit next time the clocks change. And it just sort of spiraled out of control. We need an earthquake every 6 months to keep people prepared. I'm probably the only person that looks forward to earthquakes. But I saw another hand up, I think.
Yeah, I did. I have at the tabletop, the hot plate.
Yeah?
And then for that, I have a small canister of those stuff. My house is over 50 years old, so that the kitchen is on the first floor.
Yeah?
But I keep the propane in the basement. So where is a good place to keep that the backup plan for the cooking? You know, I know that the propane is that it doesn't.
You shouldn't keep propane in your house. That should
Even
be.
a tabletop, small canister.
Oh,
Even that probably, like if it leaks, that could still be quite explosive.
You've got to be very careful with it, yeah.
Yeah, then package of 3,
Yeah.
so I have a 2 packages in the basement.
Yep.
But, should I keep?
Do you have a
outside of
shed
the house?
outside
Yeah,
or?
but the car garage is flooding.
I phoned the fire department. They're the experts on that sort of thing. I know what I think you should do, but I don't know that that's the right answer. So I think you should phone the fire department.
Alright.
Call 311. They can put you through to the fire department and they'll be able to answer the question.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
okay.
Maybe one last question and then we
Yep.
have to wrap up.
I've lived here a long time and one experienced an earthquake and now we've had 4. How can we find out if this is a premonition or to predict something more serious or,
Your guess is as good as mine. We don't know. Earthquakes cannot be predicted. There are some early warning systems. That's why we've got to be prepared for them. You know, these are possibly aftershocks of the initial earthquake that we've had. We may get a few more. We may never see another one. We may get a large one. We don't know. We live in an area right up the West Coast that can be impacted by earthquakes, and we just don't know when the next one will be. The way they're making advances in technology, maybe down the road they will have better predictions, but right now, they have like a couple of seconds warning. That's more for the surgeon that's about to do a surgery, and if he can stop doing that, it'll work better, but it's not a very long notice. So yeah, being prepared is your best course of action.
Okay,
Okay.
well, thank you, Jackie, very much.
I'm happy to